Good evening, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pasture Farm. Today, my special guest is George Heller. And George is a friend of ours. It goes back several years now. We met him at a grazing school. How long ago was that, George? 3 years?
It was in 2020. So
2020, so-
it'll be 3 years next fall.
Time flies.
Yep.
George is a Minnesotan. I was born up pretty close to where George actually lives in northern Minnesota. And George, tell us a little bit about your operation up there.
All right, so we got an 80-acre farm with perimeter fence on it. We got some South Pole cattle. We've got some hair sheep, and we're doing the rotational grazing, the intensive management, daily moves, doing the tip grazing, running them through, concentrating on animal performance, trying to keep that at the top of our management program.
Yeah. Well, you were showing me pictures of some of your cattle earlier today, and you live in it's a pretty rugged area up there. It's very, very heavy sand. You don't hardly have any topsoil.
No.
And your main grasses are, you're telling me, is it brome?
Brome, bluegrass, and we got some big blue stem. There's a little bit of timothy, but it's mostly brome and bluegrass.
Yeah. Well, you started doing this tip grazing. Now this is you're really kind of getting in it now, your second year.
Yep.
You got good fence, you got some water out there. And every animal you showed me, folks, is just pig fat. Shiny, just beautiful animals.
Can you show us?
They've got good genetics.
Well, it's not going to show up real well
okay.
in this. But trust me, folks,
There's a couple pictures out there people could probably get a hold of.
Yeah, and George has got a YouTube channel, and it's a very easy one to remember. It's George Heller.
Just George Heller, yeah, that's it.
So George started his own company years ago. He's worked very, very hard, and you run a concrete company.
Yep.
Pour concrete.
Yeah, we do mostly residential concrete, do everything from footings all the way to patios, and we do it all. Everything the customer wants, we take care of it for them.
Well, you started from the ground up. You were a grunt, and you were good enough at it that the guy you work for put you on like as a foreman, and finally you're like, maybe I'll just do this on my own.
Yep, it took a little while, but I gained enough skill and enough courage to get after it on my own, and it's been working out pretty good. It's been a little bit of a struggle, but I have to say it's paid off quite well going out on my own now.
Well, you're telling me George has got a real passion for this grazing, and he spends time with his animals out on the farm. I think that is the highlight of your day.
That's about the best part of my day is going out there, even if it's 5 minutes before it gets dark and I'm moving fence in the dark. It's still, that's where I can go and just kind of just breathe.
Yeah. Well, you're in northern Minnesota, so you're north of the Twin Cities.
Yep, we're about 2.5 miles north of the Twin Cities.
2.5 miles, right?
Hours.
Yeah. I was actually born up in Mora, Pine City area.
Yep. I poured a bunch of concrete in that town.
Did you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I remember it was cold. We ran I was born on a dairy farm, and it was so cold, and the snow was so deep some mornings that we couldn't go outside.
Yeah.
As little kids.
Yep.
We get lost in the snow.
Yeah. Yep.
So you have to deal with that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge during the winter, but like last year we unrolled with the Bobcat, and that worked pretty good. And this year I just came down and got a bale unroller for this year, and we're gonna try go at it with this year, and trying to build soil on our well-drained sand. And
well, you were mentioning earlier you'd taken a walk with your mom, and she was talking about.
Go ahead and tell it.
Yeah, all the different grasses and things that you're seeing now.
Yeah, well, on my home place, I have a place at home too, and I've been running my sheep there. And my mom's not really that keen on me doing it, but I ran my sheep out. We live on a pipeline right of way, so I had them out on there. And this summer, I was walking around with my mom out there, and she's like, wow, everything's just growing so well out here this year. And she just was perplexed about how it was happening, and I was kind of just under my breath saying, yeah, it's because the sheep have been out here impacting the ground and stimulating the plants to grow. And someday she might come around, but most of my family's pretty supportive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've really done some, I think, some astronomical things on your farm in a short period of time. You've really turned it around. And just looking at your animals as a stockman, I can kind of pick out animals that are doing well, and your animals are doing well.
Oh,
And so
appreciate
that's
that.
a compliment to you. And you didn't have a lot of background in animal production starting out.
Not production. I worked on a dairy farm in high school
Yep.
and milked cows. I wasn't involved with any of the.
But that wasn't a grazing farm.
No, we weren't grazing. We were just feeding silage and corn and
Yeah.
mostly confined space. And I just kind of got the urge to get some animals a few years ago, and then I found Greg on YouTube, and what he was saying made a lot of sense. So I just kind of grabbed a hold of that, and it's been working. It's been working very well. And I mean, I just a beginner. Don't have hardly any experience doing this, and it's been going really well.
Well, folks, I get emails. I get a lot of emails, and a lot of them are looking for sheep seed stock, hair sheep, really good, hard keeping, hard country type. In other words, you're not giving a lot of inputs. There's no grain, no hoof trimming, no antibiotics, no shearing them or docking the tails. Just very low input animals. And George came down and got some of our stock several years ago. And I was a little bit concerned about ship that you go and clear north Minnesota with them.
Yep.
And you also got some South Poles from us, and I was really scared about those.
Yeah.
I mean, you're way up there.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, he's got some really well adapted cold weather. Minnesota, I wouldn't be afraid to use them. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. So anybody looking for northern type adapted livestock, this is your guy, George Heller. And just go to his YouTube, and you've got your contact information on there.
It's not on there, but I have an Instagram account as well.
Okay.
It's just George Heller, at George Heller 88 is my handle. And
Yep.
I've got pictures of my cattle on there, and you can get a hold of me on there. And I post on there, I don't know, just about every day pretty much.
Well, I want to kind of wrap up with this. When you're getting seed stock and you're moving them, the further you move them across the country, folks, the less likely that they're going to adapt. Now, you may have a few that will adapt, but the closer you can source those seed stock in their environment, they're going to be adapted. They're already going to be adapted. And Ian is the guy, Ian from Africa, Ian Mitchell Ennis, he's taught us that is, the longer distance they travel, you can expect to have some issues. And so you've already got animals that adapt to that northern climate. You're not in deep topsoil up there. You're in sand.
Yeah,
And so those animals have adapted to that.
Yeah, they've adapted to our meager forage pretty well coming from this nice lush farm. They come up, and I thought they might lose. I was expecting them to lose condition when they got up there. And
Well, you showed us a picture of that last cow you bought from us. And I don't remember. Well, she was bred.
Yep.
And he showed me the picture. She had this heifer calf that just almost knocked your eyes out.
Yeah, she's
that
beautiful.
beautiful. She's that
a
beautiful.
beaut. Yep.
And if you can do that on sand with topsoil about that thick, I mean, you literally don't have any topsoil.
Yeah, there
just
pretty
sand.
much isn't any.
To me, that gives hope for about anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty lousy, but I mean, they're doing well, and they're.
What would be your closing comments, George, if somebody's starting out in your boots? In other words, they've got a job, they made a little money, they're not hoping that they can do that their whole life. They'd like to maybe do something else, and they're kind of like what your dreams are. Is as you get older, this is something you'd like to do more of. What would be What would be some suggestions you'd give for folks like that?
I would say do some studying first. Figure out what kind of animals you want. Don't just get some because everybody else is. Get something you want and you like, and then start setting your management practices into something that you're capable of doing. And then when you move down the road, you can bump up your management a little more when you're more knowledgeable and have more time.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad if you can't move them every single day or you're not doing everything just like Greg, because Greg didn't get to this point all in one day either. So you got to start somewhere. Starting is the main thing. Just start and work at it little by little, and you know, if you really like it, you can keep putting more effort into it, and it'll you follow the right steps, and it'll start paying you back. You'll start enjoying it a lot.
Yeah.
What's your end goal here, George?
End goal is to be able to get out of pouring the concrete, hopefully in the next 5 years, and be able to just graze sheep and cattle full time. That's kind of what I'm hoping to be able to do.
That's what trips your trigger.
Yeah, it's the best part of my day. When even if it's almost getting dark, it's my favorite thing to do is go and move my cattle because it's just peaceful.
Yeah, there's something about being out in the field with animals that are grazing and they're licking on each other, or they're laying there chewing their cud, or that you can hear the grass being ripped off, the wind blowing, and the frogs peeping. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's relaxing.
Yeah,
very relaxing.
Yeah,
and I worked in town for 29 years, and folks, when I got off working out, I had this weight on my chest. I had a very stressful job at the end. I was responsible. I could have killed people in my job. I blew stuff up. Okay?
Right.
That's what I did. I was a demolition guy. And when I got home with my livestock, it was like, whew, all that was released.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I know where you're coming from on that. So, folks, let's give George a plug for those of you all who haven't watched some of his videos, go to his YouTube channel, hit subscribe. Let's get him up there in his subscriber count. And
what is that again?
George Heller.
George Heller.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's help this guy out, folks. I'm going to end with that. And thank you, George.
Thank you, Greg.
And we worked George the last couple of days. He came down to get a bale and already wanted to hang around. I'm like, all right. So we put him splitting firewood, and him and Isaac and Ike and David have been splitting the heck out of firewood, but we enjoyed it, and we always enjoy having George come down. So thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
You bet. Folks, hit that subscribe button way out, and we'll see y'all down the road.